Hello and welcome to our weekly LinkedIn Live leadership series, Voices of Leadership. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host and the founder and CEO of Equals Y. Each week, we explore the fascinating world of leadership, featuring voices from various generations, industries, and backgrounds. A team's job is to deliver business results. It's the role of the leader to empower, inspire, and enable the people and the team to deliver those results. And there is a repeatable formula to this, and that's the E3 leadership code: express plus engage plus execute, powered by emotional qualities. However, each leader's approach to applying that E3 leadership code is unique because there's no one way to lead and to show up. And that's what the goal is of these sessions, is really to showcase different diverse voices of leaders and to hear how they show up and how they help others. So let's make this interactive. Let us know where you're calling in from. You can network with others, share your LinkedIn profile with us. But in the meantime, I'm going to get started and introduce our guest. I'm so excited to have him on the show today. We realize that we've known each other for over 40 years. So we might get into some of that personal stuff later on, but I am really excited for what he's done and for what he's going to be able to bring forth today and share with us. So Mitchel Schuckman is the former partner at PwC and now founder of the Schuckman Group. He's advising executives and partners navigating growth, evolving growth, client expectations, and the disruption of AI and what it's bringing to the world of professional services. Mitch and I actually share some similar roots. We both started our careers at CPAs. He was at PwC, I was at E&Y. And now we've both found ourselves back to the same calling, helping leaders grow through coaching. But we came from a lot of different paths. So it's going to be fun to explore what we've learned over our career and what we're doing now. He's also the brother, full disclosure, of my best friend, who we lost way too early. But that's what makes this connection today so both personal and special. So Mitch, I don't want to give away too much. Thank you for joining. Let me turn it over to you. I mean, you've just started this new business and you have had an amazing career. Why don't you share that with our audience and tell us what's happening?
Well, thank you for that intro, Kathy. Yes, we've known each other for a very long time. We were both I think, teenagers. And yes, you were very close friends with my sister, who I think about every day. So I'm thrilled, Kathy. I didn't think it was going to be this much fun, but I was a PwC person for a very long time. I was a partner for over 25 years. PwC partners reach a mandatory retirement date at some point, and I reached mine June 30th. And I started my own executive coaching and leadership development firm. I thought it would be fun. It's been way more fun than that. So what's evolved since I'll go back, but let me start with where I am now.
Yep.
I'm coaching a bunch of senior executives. A lot of them are PwC partners, but not all of them. So I'm coaching some senior executives one-on-one because honestly, Kathy, we are operating in a very stressful world right now, especially in the business world. I mean, all aspects of the world, but definitely business. So coaching is really critical. I've been invited more than I expected to do speaking and training, especially around the concept of being very active in the business market while AI is taking over our jobs. So if AI is doing more work, what can we do to relate more to our customers? So I'm doing a lot of work in that space. The third area that I'm helping some specific and selected clients with is actually helping them win work, like helping them with their proposals. That's where I did a lot of my work at PwC. So I'm getting called to do that now. And so there's a small bit of my work that's actually helping on actual proposals. So Kathy, that's kind of what I've been doing since I retired. If you don't, would you mind if I went back and talked about us both being CPAs?
Sure.
I mean, Kathy, it's really strange how I got to this spot, and I'm assuming it's something similar with you. I mean, I was in a tax accountant. I did tax returns. I was just, yeah, it was. I still am a CPA. I realized at some point in my career, probably a little over 10 years ago, that I was in the wrong job. I
Mm.
was doing accounting, which is a very left brain job, analytical. And I'm a right brainer. I'm a creative guy. I really understand people. I understand how to connect with people, both personally, in writing, in delivery. And I ended up being able, thank goodness for PwC, to switch my role from
Hmm.
being a tax service person to being a business development person, which also led me to become a professional certified coach, where I really got to exercise my right brain, helping people understand themselves, and then how to connect with other people, which leads to winning work and being more effective leaders. So that's a long answer, Kathy, but now you got a sense of what I'm doing now and how I got here.
Well, and it's so funny because you might have discovered it a little bit later. I think I discovered it in like the third or fourth year after doing accounting. I was on the audit side, but I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't like this routine thing. I'm like, this is driving me absolutely batty, right? And I'm like, yep. And so my career went from CPA to chief people officer. And people are like, I don't understand. How did that happen? And I'm like, well, I like to drive change, but I know people are key. And I think you and I have talked about this over the years of how important it is to connect to people and really get to know them, right?
Well, Kathy, it's really, I mean, it's especially hard when you're dealing with technicians, accountants, tax people, because the reason they got their jobs and the reason they're successful in their roles is precisely not the skill set. That's the human skill set. We talked about left brain, right brain. It's your left brain that controls the analytics, the rule following, the detail orientedness, but it's the right brain that controls the EQ, the relatability, the being able to see other people deeply.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking to accountants or lawyers about how to exercise their right brain and relate to their clients or potential clients, Kathy, I think I'm always going to have work to do because it's really not an obvious fit. And honestly, the people who I coach, I think appreciate it. They're like, yeah, that's not the way I think. That's not where my brain naturally goes. So thank you for helping me get there.
Yeah. And, I have a phrase that logic doesn't move people, emotions do, right? But
Mm,
you need everyone in the business. So, I'm guessing, when you look at it, you need the data, you need the left brain to be successful. Because I'm
yeah.
guessing your proposals that you put together are very detail oriented with the business elements. You need the numbers, right, to convince people to sign on. But if you don't connect to their hearts, are you really winning that business?
Kathy, there are three things that win, at least in professional services. There are three things that win work. The first is your relationships, and usually it's not knowing, the client's birthday or their kids' names. Usually it's understanding them well, helping them be successful, so they want you to help them. So that's thing one. Thing two, in addition to relationships, is price. I mean, any client who says to you price isn't important is lying, because price is always important. But the third, and the thing where I'm able to help, is the story you tell. And
Mm,
the story you tell is one that they need to relate to. And sometimes the story is spoken. Sometimes it's shown in the form of how our technology will make your life better. Sometimes it's a proposal document that the words and the pictures and the infographics need to connect with the person. But it's that element, that storytelling element, where a good coach or advisor can really bring value, because
mhm.
you could be the smartest technician in the world, but if the person on the other side of the proposal isn't feeling it, they're not going to hire you.
Yeah. So let's stay with that storytelling element, because I know you've written a book about storytelling, right?
Yes.
And what, remind me what the name of the book is? I'm telling a
Yeah.
story, or
It's called I'll Tell You a Great Story. The subtitle is Building Closer Relationships and Winning in Business Through Storytelling. Kathy, the book is 30 chapters. It's 30 short stories. Um, truth,
stories, right?
they're all stories. They're all, truth is, they're all based upon my experience. So either my personal life or my PwC life.
Hmm.
Mitchell is not a character in any of the chapters. PwC is never mentioned. There are no clients or people mentioned, but it's based upon my experiences. And I tried to choose stories that would teach lessons. So the nice part is it's like 230 pages. You can either read it on one kind of like long plane ride or like 30 trips to the restroom. Um, but they're really digestible, they're really relatable, and they're meant to use stories to teach business lessons.
So do you have a short one you could share with our audience and give them a sneak peek? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, it's funny. You know, when you say that, you ask a question and then two answers pop in your head at the same time. Um, I'm going to go with this one. The first chapter in the book is a story about a professional services firm, PwC, but not PwC in the story, that was pitching on some work. And what they did, and true story, the true story is we had a technology in a very specific area of tax that no one had. We knew no one had it. We had just created it. We had a bunch of technologists in a room sprinting day and night to deliver the prototype, the MVP, the minimal viable product, to show this client in the oral presentation of a proposal. And we walked in and we showed it. And we were like, we had to wow them. We used their data. We ran their calculations. We showed them their results in the meeting, and we lost. We actually lost to EY. And we lost to EY. And I was asked, not in the book, it was someone else, but in real life, it was me. I was asked to go in and do a debrief with the CFO who chose EY. And they said, you both had great technology. And I said, well, whoa, 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 whoa. How could we have had both a great technology? We just created this. We created this for you. And they said, well, EY showed us very similar technology. We're like, they did? By the way, this isn't a knock on EY. We do this sometimes too. And she said, well, yeah, they showed us screenshots and how it would impact our lives so impactfully, have such a great impact on our lives as professionals that we really bought into it. I'm like, but they were screenshots. How do you know they were real? And they were like, they're a very reputable firm. We've done business with them before. I don't think they'd be lying to me. And she's like, and if they lie to me, I'll hold them accountable. I know how to manage service providers. And the point is, screenshots and a great story beat real technology because they felt it. They felt how it would benefit them. So I just gave away chapter 1 of the book, but now you can go
That
buy
means
the book and read the rest.
if I'm doing the math right, you got 29 more stories.
29
So
more stories.
absolutely.
But Kathy, there is a lot of, we just talked about, whether it's managing teams or selling work, if you can make that if you can relate to that other person and have them relate to you, you're golden.
Yeah, and I look and I think we've talked about this before, but the statistic is 8% of individuals or teams fail to deliver. No, 8% actually deliver on their goals. 92% fail. And so much of that is the storytelling, Mitch. Like when I look at it, it means they haven't expressed that vision. What's the purpose? Why are we here? And as you're telling that story, that's what E&Y was able to tell the vision, right? They painted the picture of what it's going to look like and why it's going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gets people excited. You engage the people that way. Then you go and deliver. You have to execute, right? So this goes to left brain, right brain, but it does
Yeah.
start right brain first of making
Mm-hmm.
sure you're painting that picture. but you need the left brain to deliver.
You have to deliver.
It's the balance of the two of them.
I'm just going to continue on what you just said. It's actually then comes back, I think, to the right brain to make sure that you articulate the value that was delivered. So I've actually seen a ton of teams do a debrief. They walk into a client and they tell them how great they did.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of telling the client how great they made the client succeed. And there's a huge difference there. I walk into meetings and saying, dear client, I'm about to tell you why this is successful, and I'm hoping to put it in words that you could use in your personal plan for success. That's again kind of turn. So it's interesting, Kathy, how the emotional and EQ side is really the bread of the sandwich. Both ends are really what makes the whole relationship complete.
I agree. And as I was building the E3 leadership code and looking, okay, what are the 8% doing differently? It really is a Venn diagram, right? You have to express, you have to engage, you have to execute. But at the heart, within that middle, is the emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? It's the empathy, it's the authenticity, having courage. All of those emotional things is what's the glue to make things happen.
Kathy, very much so.
Yeah.
Can I actually ask you whether we can discuss the impact of AI on all that?
Of course.
I mean, Kathy, you and I were talking about this earlier, and I'm like, this is the perfect time to raise it. Is that okay with you?
Of course. Go for it.
Kathy, I was thinking about what we just talked about and how I hear so many people that I'm coaching today. They have like this love-hate relationship with the concept and the reality of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of coaches, a lot of these so-called right brainers are very nervous about like AI impeding on their turf. And everything we discussed, whether it's telling a story, whether it's helping a client see how we've made them successful, AI is an incredibly empowering tool
Yep.
for us storytellers and for us right brainers to leverage. So I'm seeing it right now when I'm working on proposals or when I'm working on slide decks.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know the story. I need to be able to relate to the other person. I need to be able to tell AI what those key points are. If I just say to AI, write me a deck or tell me a story, it's going to tell me a very inhuman story that does not connect. But if I tell AI, this is what we're connecting to, this is how they're going to respond, this is the story they'll relate to. Now, I need a first draft of that story in about 3 seconds, you'll get it.
Yeah.
But I think, embracing that kind of AI power as a tool and taking confidence in those, right brain skills and using AI to supercharge them is something we storytellers and coaches need to embrace. So I'm doing a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think to your point, it comes down to balance, right? The AI, as I'm seeing it, is a way to power. It's the technology that's going to help us be more human, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
Right? Because it can process all of those numbers and all of that, but it cannot help on the human side at this point and put the context, tell the story, be able to build that pathway and that vision of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it.
Yeah, Kathy, exactly. I see people who, I mean, look, I made a career at PwC in my last 10 years. I was in charge of pursuits and business development. And I see a lot of people like, well, I could use AI to write a proposal. And they would say, write me a proposal about how to prepare a tax return. And they would get something that would never sell anywhere. It'd be completely accurate, but it wouldn't sell because there's a human being on the other end. and being able to use AI as the tool to deliver the story that the human being at the other end, the receiving end, will relate to and embrace and want to be part of. That's the power that we'll continue to have.
Yeah, you remind me of the days. When I was at HP in the software team, we would be putting decks together for Meg Whitman, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
business updates. And so you would sit there and crunch all the numbers, you're putting the slides together. And the first question, you walk into a meeting with Meg, she'd be like, who cares? And that was the most powerful learning, for me at the time, is like, oh, I need a story behind every one of these numbers. I need a story about where we're going, why we're going there. And anybody that ever worked with me after that, always, that was my question. You put a slide deck together, you put a slide, I'm like, who cares? And they're like, but we need this information, Kath. I'm like, no, you don't. Tell me the story. And I find, and I love your experience on this, you need the details,
Of course you do.
right?
Of
And
course
I
you
always
do.
think you start there, but then it's the story layering on top of that. And
I like what you said on top of that. Yes. I think the details are like the proof behind the story. So I say behind, like you see the story, you lead with the story, you close with the story. The details are the proof that the story isn't BS.
yeah,
Like you can't sit there and tell a story and not have credentials. You can't tell a story and not have facts. Um, but don't let facts completely drive your story. I always say, don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
yeah,
Facts should support a good story.
yeah. So how else, when you think about AI, I mean, it is changing the world dramatically.
Mhm.
And with professional services, I gotta believe it's going to have a huge impact on businesses. Not just on, it's going to help make proposals faster, and then you have to tell the story.
Right.
It's going to help us deliver on different things.
Mm.
How are you coaching and advising folks on how to think about their professional services business?
It's a great point. You talked about professional services. I was walking the dogs with my wife Meredith last weekend, and we were talking about professional. We were talking about like our 2 and 3-year-old niece and nephew, and what are they going to do for a living? And I said, I really hope they become a plumber or an electrician. And she laughed, and then lo and behold, there was a quote by the CEO of NVIDIA who said, our future millionaires are electricians and plumbers, which was fascinating. But Kathy, this is the stress that professionals are feeling because AI is the technical equalizer. So there are people that I've coached and I've been around my whole career who are the technicians, tax, audit, legal, the people who always know the rules and know how to apply them and create value. AI is an equalizer.
Mm,
So you can have someone who's super smart and someone who's maybe like a B plus in smart, but AI makes them pretty similar. And so how do you become differentiated if AI is taking over either some hours or some smarts? And to me, it's being in the market, being in front of clients and customers and prospective clients and prospective customers and relating to them as human beings and being and trusting that you can bring value to them as people. Like it's really important. So I mentioned at the beginning, Kathy, that I've been surprised at the number of speaking engagements I've been asked to do since I retired. And almost every time the speaking topic is how do we get people who used to spend most of their time researching and working to be more present and to be relatable and relating to the people we want to do business with. And it's a mindset shift. Kathy, you used the 92%, 8% rule before. There's a rule that I use all the time that 2% of sales happen on the first call. And
mm,
that's true. Usually you walk in on the right day when the client needs your help and boom, you have a project. Um, 80% of sales take between 5 and 12 touch points,
yep.
emails, conversations, meetings, and 45% of people give up after the first try. They
Those
feel rejected. I say, I had a meeting, client didn't buy anything, they're not interested, I'm going to go do something else. So this kind of being in the market and being more in contact with people and then being persistent about it is the big switch that people are going to need to start thinking about in this world of AI. Because if they're going to rely purely on technical competence, they're going to lose.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we've got a couple of questions there. The audience is pinging in here. So let me pick Kristen's question. Do you feel that senior executives are better at telling the macro story, whereas people who are closer to the day-to-day work are better at telling the micro stories? And do you think there's a difference? I'll take it a little bit further, of a macro story or micro story.
My answer to that question is everyone can be a storyteller. They just have to be conscious about it. Kathy, our whole lives are stories.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be mindful of that. So I've seen the most senior. I've coached CEOs. I've coached the top people at our firm and at other firms. Some of them are so caught up in their day-to-day drama and challenges that they can't get out of their way to tell a story.
Yeah.
Others are visionaries. Others spend all day telling stories. So I really think it's a human question, not a level question. And I would encourage people who may not be comfortable in this space to just pay attention to your life. Just think about, as you're laying in bed one night, think about your day and think about how many things happened that are stories.
Yeah.
Everyone's got stories all the time.
Yeah. And I think also asking people, right? So I think some people get so caught up in they've got to fill the void or they got to fill the gap. So they want to talk. But some of that storytelling, as I talk to different clients, is actually asking them about, tell me the story. What's
Yeah.
happening with you? Tell me your problem, because then you can adjust your story to really approach them with what they need to hear.
Yeah, Kathy, there's a chapter in my book. I won't tell you the whole story, but the short answer is when you make the other person the center of the conversation, when you ask them about their story or what's important to them, and you observe that carefully and lean into it, they freaking love you. The story in the book has the character who was seen and listened to at the end of the conversation thought that they would just spend time with the smartest and most interesting person in the world. And when asked why, because they spent the entire time talking about the other person, about themselves. They didn't learn anything about the person, but they thought they were incredibly interesting because they saw them and heard them.
And that's what we all crave.
We all crave it.
When you think about what gets me up in the morning, that's the human connection, which is so important. And the work that you're doing is helping people understand, because that left brain is comfortable in the details, right? And you're like, okay, I'm good here. This is my comfort. This is the technical. But when you can branch out of that, right, then you are really being able to connect to people and understand what works.
It's the work we're doing, not the work I'm doing. It's the work we're both doing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's, awareness. I say if I could give any leader a superpower, it would be awareness. And it starts with knowing yourself. Like the work you did 10 years ago to suddenly recognize that, wait a minute, my right brain is powerful and I need to exercise that more. I remember the conversation we had about it, and it was probably a little bit later, but I think you were starting to figure it out at that point and really saying, this is a passion of mine. This is what I care about.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about my passion when we started. I'm like, I don't want anyone to have to work for stupid poopy head, the guy that doesn't care about people.
Right.
Because your point on that story, like people just want to be seen and heard. When people feel, and by the way, it's your employees and your customers,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They will go above and beyond for you.
You don't have to be a salesperson. You don't have to be a psychologist. You just have to be aware.
Yep, absolutely. So when you think about the younger generation, what's some advice you have for them on how to show up and what they need to do? Because this is a real change from when you and I came into the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, I view technology and AI as a tool you have to have in your toolbox. You have to know how to use it. You have to know how to break it out, and you have to be agile with it. But I would uber tune in to the human skills, and because if whether what any career you choose, whether it's a plumber or an electrician, or it's a lawyer or an accountant, if you lean into the human skills, the awareness, the relatability, the other person, you can have and you can find success. So that would be my advice.
I love it. You know, some days I think, oh, am I just that warm fuzzy? Like I'll put the heart on the slide. And the first time I did that, I was like, oh, is that going to be bad? Is that going to be okay in the business place? But that's where the business is going. And if we don't get on board with that, you're going to have a challenge going forward.
I agree.
Yeah, I had one CEO that I work with. I just popped in my mind, and he called me up. He's like, "Kat, this is really, it's all about feelings." Because we were doing an exercise on what's the best team you ever worked for or with. And all of them came back and made me feel seen. It made me feel like I was part of something bigger. I knew there was the purpose because that's all feelings.
Yeah.
I'm like, absolutely. And so if we don't embrace that as, you know, leaders, we're not going to succeed as we go forward in this new world.
New world. Kathy, it's more important now than ever. You know, we talked about AI, and I'm not going to take us down another rabbit hole at this stage of the conversation, but economic uncertainty, political unrest, there's so many things that are making the world we live in stressful, that human connection is what gives people comfort and what attracts people to one another.
Yeah, I agree. And Jay sharing here, you know, piping in, which I love it. Finding that balance is what makes us and will make us successful. Leveraging that right brain, left brain together, but it's the emotional qualities at the center of it that's so important. And it doesn't come natural for a lot of people. And that's okay. And that's why we're here, right, Mitch? Just to help coach others to find those that emotional intelligence and succeed in business.
Completely agree. And it's what I love to do.
I love it. Mitch, so where can people find more out about what you're doing today?
Oh, thank you.
The Schuckman Group is
Schuckman Group. So the Schuckmangroup.com. You can see the spelling of my name on the bottom. So it's actually the Schuckmangroup.com. That is my website, but it also has, I have a weekly newsletter / blog, and all of the past articles are on there. All of these topics have been discussed. And of course, you could find my book on Amazon, Kindle, Apple Books. I have an audio version read to you by the author, me, on Audible. So you can go buy my book or go to my website and find everything you need to find out about me.
excellent. And I think Imelda put all the links in the chat as well. But Mitch, thank you so much for joining us and, you know, sharing your insights and how it's great to hear kind of that left brain coming and helping and recognizing how much, you know, I'm right there with you on the right brain side, but we need both. We need balance, and it's going to take work. So
thank you so much for having me, Kathy. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it's really great to talk to you.
absolutely. Great. Thank you all for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. Take care.